Hi, welcome to this next section in the Cubase Guru Synthesis course. This section is just going to be explaining some of the more general parts of Zebra that we haven't discussed up until now. The only things we won't be covering in this video is the effects in Zebra, things like send effects and insert effects, simply because those are in the next video. This one's going to be, we're going to discuss this section here, the main matrix, the effects matrix, the matrix modulation section, the ARP/sequencer, the global section. Okay, this middle section here, this is the main matrix, which you should know already. This is where you add your oscillators and whatnot. You've got this bit here which I didn't really go into in any great depth. It's very simple, it simply is a mixer. So if I put an oscillator in here, which is going into this channel, if I press it, we hear it. It's that simple. If I put a noise generator in here and I press it, we'll hear both. Simple, because they're both sent to the main bus at the moment. If I change this to bus 1 and press a key, we'll only hear the oscillator. The reason for that is because this is bus 1 here, and bus 1 needs to be returned into the master. So there you go. So that's another way of mixing the two signals. You can also, if you've got them both on main, you can do the mixing up here. As you can hear, there's nothing. So I can bring in my oscillator 2 and noise. They can both be mixed there. You can pan both of them. And you can modulate the panning. Same as any other modulation parameter. Just click on it and add your modulation tool. Here is where you can add the volume control. And as you've seen, you've got the choice of gate or those 4 envelopes. And we know what those do already because we've discussed those in previous videos. And we've also discussed that you can modulate the volume with this as well. So nothing really new there. I just wanted to make sure you understood what these bits did. And of course you've got little mute buttons here as well. Okay, now this bit is exactly the same. We've got a delay on this master bus. We can't hear it. If I turn that on, it will affect both signals. Now if I move the delay to bus 1 and turn up the return, if we change this to bus 1, now when we hit the key, it will play both the sounds, but only the noise will be delayed. Take a listen. So with the buses and these return knobs, you can affect different sounds with different effects depending on where you've routed them. Very, very simple to understand. And of course, if I turn up the send, it then sends it into the master and it will be affected. It will start to affect this one as well. So easy to understand, very simple. Okay, the next section I want to talk about is the global section here. Again, very easy to understand. Okay, I've got a different patch up. Now what we've got here is voice mode. Voice mode's got several different choices. The best way to learn them is to play them and mess around with them. But basically, poly stands for polyphony. And when it's set to poly, you can then choose the amount of voices that the synthesizer will play. So when it's on few, basically what that means is you can play several notes at once and the synthesizer will play them. But when it's on few, it's limited to a handful. When it's on medium, you've got some more, and when it's on many, you can pretty much play as many as you like, almost. We've got some other ones here. We've got retrigger. That simply means every time you hit a key, it starts at the beginning of the cycle of the oscillator. Let me just turn that off. We have legato, which allows you to use the portamento in some really cool ways, which I'll let you know about in a minute. We've got Arpeggiator, which we'll talk about in a minute, and duophonic. And you've got duophonic as well, which means 2 notes at a time. Okay, we've also got the pitch bend settings here. This is a really cool section because you can set the up and down pitch bend settings differently. So I can have going up 5, going down 12. So listen to this. Cool. Smooth attacks does exactly that. When you're creating a sound that needs a fast attack, or a nice fast percussive attack, if that's on, it may be smoothing the attack out too much and it'll kind of ruin your sound. Just take it off and see what happens with that. It should make it a little bit better. Voice drift is pretty much a slightly detuning the voices, really. That's pretty much what it does. Just like some old analog synths. And I believe, according to Urs, the guy who created Zebra, the virus does it as well. So if you want to slightly detune voices, use that button. Okay, this is the kind of portamento section here. We'll start here. That's the range of portamento, so you can set how much portamento is used with that knob here. Glide 2 offsets the glide for even numbered modules, so that's assigned to even number modules, and glide 1 does the other sound source modules. The mode parameter here, you've got time and rate. Basically this is two different parameters that affect the glide settings differently. For instance, in time, the glide time is equal between the notes. So if you listen to the glide time here, obviously I've over exaggerated it here. But if I change it to rate, the timing's different between the glide and you'll hear it very different. So something to mess around with. Fine tuning, simply that. Fine tuning by semitone. Each way. Down 1 and up 1. Then you've got the tuning, which means you can go down 24 semitones. So not a very good patch to let you hear that with. Let me just change it to something a bit more basic. Okay, so minus 12, minus 24. Very self-explanatory. There you go. You can also use tuning maps. There isn't any that actually comes with Zebra, but this can allow you, I assume, as to be perfectly honest, I'm not 100% sure, but I assume it's so that you can tune the synth to different scales and keys. Things like Eastern keys, something like that. And that's where you turn it on and off. Then you've got a swing generator. So if we were to put the ARP on, this will add swing. And you can change all the different timings there. So change it to triplets, so on and so forth. So that's your swing. Here you've got your basic output, your level for the master channel. I've gone through all this before. You've got your returns, which I've explained, and your sends. You've also got a modulation parameter here for send 1, and same again for send 2 here. You can bypass the effects with that button. And all your effects show up here where you can change them and manipulate them. But there's more about this lot in the next video. Okay, one thing I want to show you, another thing I want to show you is the modulation mixer. So let's say we want to control this tuning here on oscillator 2 with envelope 1 and LFO 1, but we want to control the amount using the modulation wheel. Just go here and select mix 1. What it does is gives you a modulation mixer, which has several different parameters here. But what we're interested in is these three here. Now what this allows you to do, depending on what you select here, is different ways of modulating stuff. Or adding your modulation sources together. So, in this instance we're going to use mix to modulate the tuning of oscillator 2. So what we now want to do is assign some things here. Now, let me just go over what these three different sections in here are. Okay, when it says, when you select some modulations, basically what it does is it adds these three together and that to create one modulation source. So let's just go, what have we got? We'll go LFO1, we'll go envelope 1, and we'll go envelope 2. So now all of these are being added together, as well as the constant, to create one modulation source. So let's have a listen. When we select scale sum by constant, what that means is all three modulation sources are added together, and the adding together of these three signals, the constant then scales the overall amplitude of that signal. So those three signals combined, the signal that comes out of those three is then scaled by the constant. I know this all sounds very technical, but it is explained in the PDF file that comes with this, as is everything that I've discussed in much, much more detail, so have a read of that. So this is what this one sounds like. Pretty much the same, slightly different. And the third one, fade half by 3 times C. This one sounds more complicated, but it's actually very easy to understand. Basically what you've got, LFO1 and envelope 1 are being mixed together, so that signal is being mixed together, but then I can put in the modulation wheel here, which actually controls the amount. So if I press the key now, you can hear it's modulating, but when my modulation wheel is at the bottom, it's just LFO1. When I move it to the top, it mixes from LFO1 to envelope 1. Now let me just see if I can add another modulation source to make that sound a bit more apparent. Okay, what I've done is I've replaced the envelope with LFO2, and I've set LFO2 onto 1/16th speed. So what will happen is, when my modulation wheel is at the bottom, it will be LFO1 at 1/4, and then as I push it up to the top, it will change from 1/4 to 1/16th. Have a listen. So as you can see, you can get some awesome stuff going on with that. Again, this is all explained in far more detail in the PDF that comes with this section. Okay, the next section I want to discuss is the matrix. Again, very simple. I'll just put in a simple patch. Okay, and we'll add another LFO, an envelope, and an LFO. Oh, LFO2 will make that. Okay, so let's say I've got envelope controlling the tuning here. Okay, and I've got LFO1 controlling the wave. And I've got LFO2 controlling the panning. And LFO2 controlling the volume as well. Okay, so now I don't have any more modulation sources in here. There's nowhere else I can modulate. But say I wanted to use LFO1 to modulate the tuning as well, and the detune. This is where the matrix comes in. It's very easy to use. If I come down here, the target, so the target is what I want to modulate. So in this case, it's the tuning, and I want to use LFO1 to do that. I just left click, oscillator 1, tune. Come over here, modulation source, right click, LFO1. Now there's a couple of choices. You can modulate it just by turning that up. Or you can use this via section here, which is very similar. The mod mix I showed you. This is where you can put in a control that controls this, which then controls that. So again, if I put that to modulation wheel, so just take that down. Okay, I've zeroed everything so you can hear the oscillator just playing normally, so I can show you this. It's a bit easier. All that crazy modulation I had on was just making it too confusing. So now I've got the modulation wheel. If I turn that up and press the note and move the modulation wheel up, you won't hear anything. Okay, you're not hearing anything. I have to tell it what way I want it to modulate the LFO. So a bit of positive modulation there. And that allows me to change the LFO by using the modulation wheel from the bottom or fully down to fully up. So again, very easy. Just mess around with it. You can have loads of fun. And again, it's much more detail in the PDF that comes with this. Last but not least is the Arpeggiator, which is actually very in-depth. Okay, so I've got a bass patch. To turn the Arpeggiator on, go to Global, click here, select Arpeggiator. There we go, it's arpeggiating. Now, if I hold down C, it will play the C that I'm holding and go up an octave. That's it. And it's doing that by quarter notes at the moment, which is set here. I can change that to whatever I like. We'll leave it on quarter notes, it's easier for you to hear. We now have the ARP order here. When we have by note selected, if we push two separate notes on the keyboard, the lowest note is deemed to be the first note in the ARP. So that's two notes. So it's going the first note, then up an octave, then the second note, then up an octave from that. And the lowest note is always deemed to be the first note. And in as played note, pretty self-explanatory, the first note played is the note that it deems to be the first note in the procedure or in the arpeggiator. So if I play a higher note first, it starts with a higher note. If I play a lower note first, the lower note is deemed to be the first note. Pretty easy to understand. This section here's, again, it's just the order that the notes will play. So F forward is forward, always going forward. It's got nothing to do with this. Ignore that. That always moves that way. It's simply to do with the way that the notes are played. So, for instance, this will go, if I play a C and a G, it will go C, G, C, G, C, G. Well, in fact, if I play two notes, it actually goes C, C, G, G, but it's always going forward in notation. Let me just put that back to by note. C, C, G, G, C, C, G, G. And then if we put B, you probably guessed it, it goes backwards. Forward and back. And back and forward. Of course, it's self-explanatory. Best way to learn this is just to mess around with it. ARP loop, step. Exactly what it says on the tin. At the moment it's playing 16 steps, which is up to there. If I change it to 1, it'll play 1. 4. We then have the octave here, which is what you've been hearing. If you hit one key, it's one octave, so it plays the original note and goes up one octave. Change it to 2. 0. And this is the glide, which is important for something I'm about to show you. Okay, Next we've got the step feature here. Okay, it's a little arrow, but if you click on it, you've got 4 choices. Next simply means that it will play the next note in the notes that are being played on the keyboard. So again, if I play a C and a G, it will play C, G, C, G. Or same is, again, self-explanatory. It plays the same note as the note that was played before it. So let me just change this back to 16. And I'll put these two to same. So it will play that note, it will play the first note, then it will play the second note, then it will play the second note, then it will play the second note, then it will go back to the first. Easy to understand. The next one is first. First will simply play the first note that's relative to the arp order that we discussed here. So again, if I play a C and a G, it will play, let me just put that to next, and we'll put that to next, and we'll put these ones to same, and then we'll put this one to first, so it will go first, second, 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 first. You can hear it go back. And the last one is last. And again, self-explanatory, it will play the last note. So, with regards to the arp order. So if we go, so that should be first, second, second this time. Yeah. So it plays the last note that was played preceding it. Okay, the length section. We've got 4 settings, 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1 is the 16th or the arp speed. 2 is double that, or an eighth. 3 is time and a half. And 4 is 4 times. Very easy. Best way to learn that is to listen. Next we've got the gate section. The gate section, well, it's very easy. If we've got 0, it's a small trigger. Let me just put all these to normal. If we've got 1, it's slightly larger. 2, slightly larger. 3, longer. 4, a bit longer. So have a listen. In fact, if I just put them all to 0, then you'll hear it better. We'll just put that to only play 4 notes. I'll just put it up to 3. Oh. Put up to 4. So you get the idea. Okay, and 5 is slide. Allows the notes to slide into one another. Again, mess around, experiment, and there's a lot more detail in the PDF as well. What Voices does is allow you to play chords as well as single notes. So I'm going to hold down 3 notes at the moment and just listen to what happens. Okay, it's playing the 3 notes in an arpeggiated fashion, but that's it. But if I change this to 3, that to 2, and that to 3, when it gets to here, it will play all 3 notes. When it gets to there, it will play 2 of those notes, and there it will play 3. So you can play between single notes and chords, really. Great feature. And finally, the transpose section. Well, it's probably the easiest part to understand. You can transpose the notes up or down by plus or minus 12 semitones. So if we go here, in fact we'll do it that way, up by 3 semitones, up by 5, up by 7. As you can hear. So that's it for the arpeggiator. Apart from this section here. Arp mod, more modulation, which is great. So again, it's just as easy to use as any other modulation source. What we're going to do this time is control the filter cutoff using the Art Mod. So I'm just going to come up here, right click, select Art Mod. So I'm just going to draw in like a filter cutoff frequency ramp, if you like. Listen to what happens. Let me just make sure it's turned up a little bit. Yeah. And of course you can do all sorts of groovy stuff, positive, negative, or up and down, high, low. And you can have two of them. So let's use this one to mess around with the tuning, negative tuning, why not? Take that one up there, that one down there, that one up there, down there. You can hear it. So that's what they do. Very easy and can be assigned to pretty much anything. Okay, so that's it for this video. The PDF that comes with this, as I said, goes into a lot of detail about the global effects, the channel mixers, the modulation mixers, the voice mix, the arpeggiator, and the modulation matrix. So I hope you enjoyed this video.